All right, guys, welcome back to Audible Sports. Thanks for liking and subscribing last week. We really appreciate it. We got a few good picks for you today. I'm going to start it off at quarterback. I like Ben Roethlisberger against Seattle Seahawks Sunday night football. Prime time at Heinz Field. Roethlisberger is a solid play. Seattle is 30th against the pass, and he had a solid outing. He hasn't looked great this year, but last week he threw for over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I like him a lot this week against that Seahawks.
Absolutely. One of the worst defenses when it comes to guarding against quarterbacks, wide receivers, and including tight ends as well. So I look to see Big Ben having a decent week, even with losing Juju. He still has Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool helping to bring up the slack. And don't forget, Najee Harris is also catching passes out of the backfield. I like Big Ben this week. For my quarterback, I'm going with Taylor Heineke. Did you know Taylor Heineke is the quarterback 13 on the year?
No, I did not.
Would have never saw that. On the year so far, he's got rushing upside. Likes to run the ball a lot. They'll have to keep up with that Chiefs offense. I mean, everybody's going to have to keep up with that. And lucky for him, the Chiefs defense is absolutely terrible against everybody. Quarterbacks are averaging 28 fantasy points.
Yeah, and the spread was close. It was 6.5, I think. And so I'm not too worried about a blowout there. And Josh Allen just ran for over 80 yards against Kansas City. So Heineke could definitely do some stuff on his legs. So
absolutely. And you got a monster at wide receiver like Terry McLaurin. I look to see Taylor Heineke having a great week this week when you got a Chiefs defense that can't stop anybody.
Yep. They're bleeding points right now.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are worried about that Chiefs team. They're 2-3 right now. So
yeah, there's a lot of terrible teams out there with the same record that are poking fun. So let's see if the Chiefs can get that turned around. But I do like our quarterback 13 on the year this week.
Him too. At running back, I like Darrell Henderson. He's been a model of consistency this year. He's been getting over 14 points the 4 games that he started. He was out that one game, but came right back and scored 14. And they're playing against the Giants, who just gave a big game to Ezekiel Elliott. And I think Darrell Henderson's going to find the end zone this week.
Not just Ezekiel Elliott. Running backs themselves are averaging 29 points against that Giants defense. So I really like Darrell Henderson this week. Like you said, he's very consistent. Henderson is also averaging 4.9 yards per carry so far on the year. Can't get much better than that. It takes 10 yards to get a first down, and you're getting half of that with each of your carries. That's pretty good. Don't forget Saquon and Danny Dimes might be out. Danny Dimes is in that concussion protocol. He might not play this week. We all know about Saquon's nasty ankle injury he got when he rolled his ankle. If both of those guys are out, we're talking about Danny, if he's out, then they're definitely going to be a less competitive game.
Yeah, it's going to be a 10.5 favorite right now. So
it looks like that Vegas is projecting for Daniel Jones to be out. Makes that a less competitive game. Makes it for a more positive game script going towards the running back. So Darrell Henderson should be having a monster week this week.
I think so.
Absolutely. That's 20. The over/under for the game, as a matter of fact, is 47.5, which gives you a 29 implied point total for the Rams. So
it's definitely going to turn into a blowout risk there and turn into a running game, I believe. So
absolutely,
Darrell Henderson should be in a good spot.
Absolutely. Who I'm bringing to the table is going to be James Robinson. Kid's actually is just absolutely on fire right now. Can't stop him.
A chance earlier in the year, but he's proven himself for sure.
Speaking about James Robinson, he should be an auto start every week. He should not be on anybody's bench right now. I mean, kids out there going over 20 points a week.
At the very least, a flex play, but he's looking like a good start at running back too, at least.
Absolutely. Running backs are averaging 31 points and over 100 yards against the Dolphins. We all know how we picked Leonard Fournette last week.
Yep,
did very well. We're going to be picking on that Dolphins defense almost every week, depending on who their running back is. Defense has given up 6 rushing touchdowns through 5 weeks. So I like James Robinson to get one, maybe even a double touchdown game this week.
Those London games are a little worrisome because they got to fly all the way over there, but they got a few days rest before the game, so he should be good to go.
Yeah, but the Jaguars are basically London's team. We all know a few years back they were talking about even moving the team over there, so it'll be more of a home game for them than even in Jacksonville themselves, more than likely.
All right, and who do you got at wide receiver this week?
I'm picking Chase Claypool this week. They're playing against the Seahawks. The Seahawks are bleeding points to the wide receivers right now. They're one of the bottom 5 teams when it comes to giving up points to the wide receivers. Juju is going to be out for the year more than likely, which means there's going to be more targets going around. Chase Claypool is going to have to be a benefactor to that. Last week against a good Broncos defense, he had 5 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. I like to see him continue to do so against a defense that can't stop anything through the pass.
Giving up a lot of points to the wide receivers. Robert Woods just went off for 150 yards, 12 catches last week. So
absolutely, and we even called him to have a get-right game, which he absolutely did. And Mapletron in week 3, he got 15 targets in week 3, which shows that he can command a decent target share and take over a game at any point. And with Juju going down and cutting down the actual targets that Ben has, I like to see Chase Claypool keep it up.
Should go along with that Ben Roethlisberger stack on DFS as well. So for my wide receiver, he's only owned in 19% of leagues on Sleeper. It is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's looking to be Jared Goff's new favorite target at wide receiver. Got targeted 8 times each week of the last 2 weeks. Cephas, who I thought was his favorite wide receiver, just went down with a broken collarbone, so he's out for the year. And we know Cincinnati just gave up 206 yards to Devontae Adams. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't a Devontae Adams, but
not by far. But that's somebody I wasn't even thinking about. So that's somebody that you can easily pick up off of waivers and plug right into your lineup. Should be able to help you out, especially if you're one of those teams that are rocking that 0-4, 0-5 tag, that 1-4 tagline. Definitely get something to help you out.
I think you could definitely go right into your starting flex this week. And he's a good DFS play around 5,000. So
absolutely.
Somebody to look out for, I think.
At tight ends, I'm going to be going with Jared Cook versus the Ravens. Jared Cook has been getting a lot of targets from Justin Herbert. Didn't do too much last week, but wasn't really needed. Baltimore is 31st against tight ends, while they're number 8 versus wide receivers. So if you counteract that, they're going to need Jared Cook to kind of step up his game with the wide receivers kind of getting covered by those decent secondary guys. Tight ends are also averaging 20 points versus Baltimore as well. So I look to see Jared Cook having a good game.
I'm going to have to go with Mark Andrews. He's going against the Chargers this week, who just out of nowhere just gave David Njoku like 149 yards and a touchdown.
Resurrected.
Yeah. I think Mark Andrews is in for a big week, so definitely somebody to look out for. He's a start if you have him on your team, but he's definitely a start this week.
Yeah, Mark Andrews has been hit or miss so far this year, but the Chargers are 30th against the tight ends while being number 2 versus wide receivers. So Lamar's going to have to throw it to somebody, and sounds like it's going to have to be Mark Andrews. Tight ends are averaging 19 points versus the Chargers. Like you said, David Njoku just went off for, 7 for a 150 and a touchdown? Yeah. That's great.
He was definitely a DFS winner this week.
Absolutely.
But now we're going to move on to our bust alert.
These are definitely going to be guys that, even if they're a big name guy, might not mean that they are going to bust completely, but you're definitely going to have to temper your expectations. Who you got this week? This
week I got Aaron Jones. If it wasn't for that 57-yard run last week that salvaged his game, he would have been a bust last week. A.J. Dillon's commanding a lot of the targets and touches, which is kind of scary to Aaron Jones owners. So I think that's going to be the bust of the week for mine.
Yeah, Aaron Jones is coming out there and he's becoming very volatile, losing some of his touches to A.J. Dillon. Like you said, he's going to have to do something with the limited amount of touches that he's been getting. Now, this one's going to be a little scary for you because I know a lot of people, he's the number 1 running back right now. But I'm calling for a bust week with Derrick Henry versus Buffalo. Going to have to do it. He's a monster, I get it. Understand, but you're going to have to stick with me here, okay? Buffalo is number 3 versus running backs. They shut down Najee in week 1. Antonio Gibson would have been shut down if it wasn't for that one catch for a 73-yard touchdown. Everything else, he was just absolutely garbage. Running backs have only been averaging 13 points and only averaging 50 yards versus that defense. And I don't know if you know this yet, but Buffalo has yet to allow a single rushing touchdown this year.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm not saying
tough matchup then on Monday night for
not saying Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Not saying Henry should be on your bench by any means. He could easily turn it around and take over the game, but temper your expectations.
What's the spread on that one? Is it going to be a blowout potential with the Buffalo, or?
Now, Buffalo is around a 4.5-point favorite right now, and I believe the over-under, if I remember correctly, is around 50-52. Okay. So it's looking to be a competitive game, but Buffalo is a little more susceptible to the pass right now than they are the run. But just because I say that doesn't mean that defense hasn't been stopping the pass either. So it's going to be on Ryan Tannehill and that passing attack, I believe, to keep up with that offense. Because the Buffalo offense is hot right now as well.
Yeah, they are.
They're not going to be able to let Derrick Henry take over the game.
It was Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs last year. It looks like Josh Allen and the Bills this year.
And if that Tennessee Titans defense was any better, I could say, hey, maybe they can slow that offense down. But we all know Tennessee is another defense that we like to pick on. Josh Allen's going to be able to score at will. They're not going to be able to just run the clock out. So just temper expectations on King Henry this week.
All right, let's get to our FanDuel picks for the main slate this week. We're going to start off with quarterback. I like Dak Prescott at 8,100. He just went off against the Giants, and I like to pair him up with CeeDee Lamb this week, who's only 7,000. He just ripped off a big touchdown last week, so that's a pair I like for FanDuel.
Absolutely. And like I said last week, I like paying up for those quarterbacks. I like getting those guaranteed points. And you can't do much better than the pick this week for the most expensive quarterback on the slate, which is Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league right now. He's going up against Washington. He's 9,000, so he's the most expensive, but he's also under 10K, which is what he's usually floating around. That probably has something to do with how the Chiefs aren't doing as well this year. But the football team is 31st versus quarterbacks right now, and they're averaging giving up 28 fantasy points to quarterbacks. Yeah. And you got somebody like Patrick Mahomes who can easily put up 50.
You usually can't go wrong with Pat Mahomes.
And on top of that, the football team have also allowed 14 passing touchdowns, which is a league high this year. Which you got a team that is a passing team in general, but they also just lost Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
And I did want to mention that Dak is going up against New England, who just gave up 3 touchdowns to Davis Mills. So look to see Pat Mahomes have a huge week this week because they're going to be throwing the ball everywhere, especially with Clyde out. And who are you pairing him with?
You got to go with Tyreek Hill at this point. Tyreek Hill is a perfect stack for him. He's 8,700, so he's a little expensive. You could even go Travis Kelce, who's at 8,500. Or you can stack both of them, because why not? There's 2 favorite targets, and they can both get double-digit targets in a single game. We've seen plenty of times where they can both have monster games. Yep. And if they're both having monster games, so is Mahomes. You have that nice 3-way stack. Why not?
I like, at wide receiver, Jamar Chase. He's 7,800. They're playing Detroit. Detroit's not a good defense at all, and Jamar Chase has been I'm shocked by how he's playing, honestly. I was kind of surprised they went with him over Penny Sewell, but it's looking to work out, and he's gotten some big plays, and it looks like he's getting that connection with Joe Burrow. So,
and as far as another wide receiver, I like Terry McLaurin this week. If you're having those monster Chiefs stacks, you can throw Terry McLaurin in there at 7,400. We're going to definitely need to find some punt plays if we're going to have all these expensive players in there. But if you're able to get that stack, or if you want to do something different, because everybody's going to have Mahomes this week, if you want to throw Taylor Heineke in, who we called for a start of the week, you can stack Heineke and Terry McLaurin, and then come back around with Tyreek Hill as one of your other wide receivers. That way you're not spending so much for quarterback.
And I got a couple of punt plays at wide receiver this week. Like I mentioned earlier, I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's only 5,200 on FanDuel. And I also like Adam Humphries. He's only 5,000 on FanDuel. He led the Washington football team in receptions or receiving yards. And Logan Thomas is out, so he's a good punt play, in my opinion, this week.
Another cheap option is Jacoby Myers. He's still severely underpriced. He's a huge value at 5,800. When you're getting somebody like that who's the quarterback's favorite target and they can get double-digit targets each week against the Dallas defense, who's bottom 10, they're 26th versus both the wide receiver and the quarterback. They're better against the run. And New England's going to have to keep up with that Dallas offense. Dallas offense is elite this year.
Who do you have at running back this week?
Running backs, you can't get much better than CMC himself. He's the most expensive running back. He's going to be coming back. He practiced, tried to come back last week, should be fresh this week for sure. He's $10,000, but it's CMC. CMC versus a defense that is allowing an average of 26 points to running backs this week.
CMC can easily snap off for 30 points. So
absolutely.
I like Antonio Gibson this week against Kansas City, who we said gives up a lot of rushing yards. Their defense is not that good. It's going to be a close game, so I'm not too worried about the blowout risk. Antonio Gibson, 6,700 this week. I like him.
Absolutely. I also have Jonathan Taylor down. He's worth 7,500 in FanDuel this week, but Indy is a 10-point favorite, which we all know about how those 10-point favorites are usually bode well for running backs. That is a positive game script. We also have a cheap play this week. I believe we had the same player down. Who was it?
Latavius Murray looks like a good cheap play this week. He's 5,800. He's going up against the Chargers. They're 32nd against the rush, so I looked at, and he's taken over the backfield. Tyson Williams was scratched, a healthy scratch, so it looks like it's Latavius Murray's job to lose.
Yeah, you're getting a starting running back for 5,800, and like we already talked about, if you're going to be spending up for some of these more higher dollar players, you're going to need to save some money. And when you're getting a starting running back for only 5,800 against a defense who's allowing 27 points to running backs, why not save your money there?
And just for starting purposes, since CEH is out, Darrell Williams is only 5,200. That's a good punt play, and he should see quite a few carries this week.
Going to have to save money if you're spending up for some of these guys we've been talking about.
Yep. And tight ends, I'm going to go back to the well on this one. I'm going back to Hunter Henry. He got another touchdown last week. We called him as one of our plays last week. He did well. I think he scored about 16 points. So I look to him to do it again.
Absolutely. Why not? Why not keep on chasing the points while they're there? We already brought up Travis Kelce as a stack with Mahomes, but some of the cheaper options, we have Jared Cook. We brought up in the start of the week is already 5,400. Like we said before, Ravens are 31st against tight ends, so why not throw him in there? And my punt play of the week, Houston is dead last as far as giving up points to tight ends, so why not throw Jack Doyle in there from the Colts at 4,500? 4,500, you can't get much cheaper than that. They have a plethora of tight ends there with Mo Alley Cox. The man is gigantic, but Jack Doyle also commands some targets. He's had a couple weeks of 8 targets already. 4,500. Why not punt that position and pay up for some of those other guys?
Yeah, and I think Ricky Seals-Jones is still in that 5,000 range too. If you're looking for a cheap tight end, he got on quite a few snaps this week. So with Logan Thomas out, look to him to save some money on tight end. But for defense, I'm definitely spending up on defense this week. I'm going with the Rams. That Giants team is banged up, and we might see Mike Glennon as their starting quarterback. So
no Saquon and possibly Mike Glennon.
Yeah, it's definitely that could be an ugly game right there.
Their wide receivers are already banged up. Kadarius Toney was not very smart last week throwing punches. Maybe might even get a suspension. Hopefully he's just a fine. That's good. That's good anyway. But most of their wide receivers are still banged up. I don't know if Kenny Galladay is going to be back yet or not. But regardless who the quarterback is, that Rams defense should be able to shut them down without a safety net like Saquon for the quarterback.
Aaron Donald's going to get the Mike Glennon for sure.
Absolutely. That offensive line for the Giants is very suspect. If you want to find some defenses that are obviously a little cheaper, if you're paying up for those other high-profile players we talked about, you might not have the money at the end of your lineup to be able to spend for the most expensive defense. I like the Broncos versus the Raiders. They're 4,400. Raiders haven't gotten more than 14 points in the last 2 weeks, so I like that. Cowboys versus Patriots. Cowboys are 4,100. The boys are bottom 10 versus quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. So it looks like a bad defensive play, but they're leading the league with interceptions. Trayvon Diggs is out there just
won a game, right?
He's a nightmare for quarterbacks right now. So why not throw in a defense that is averaging multiple interceptions a game?
Those pick sixes will save your week too.
Absolutely.
But that should do it for our DFS picks this week. And hopefully we find success this week like we did last week and stick around for more.
I cashed in multiple of my lineups using some of the players we brought up. I hope it was able to help you guys win some money. That'll conclude our main slate segment. We're going to bring in a brand new segment this week. We're going to title this segment Vegas Picks. This is where we're going to talk about some of our favorite bets that you can make regardless through a sports book if you have access to one. We'll talk about a couple that we like where the bet is in favor of the team that's favored in the matchup, and we'll bring up a couple of our upsets. All right. You have one of yours that's a favorite?
I like the Chargers to cover the spread this week. They got the Ravens as a 3.5 favorite. I don't see that happening. I think the Chargers are going to win this week pretty easily.
Yeah, if this is something that you can jump on early in the week, because this is going to be something where I personally think the Chargers are going to win anyway, and the fact that they're going to be the underdogs in this one, why not jump on that now before the lines change, and eventually the Chargers can easily be the ones that become the 2 or 3 point favorites in this one. So if you can jump on the Chargers now while they're considered the upset, why not? Another one that I like to take as far as upsets go is I'll take the Texans plus 10 versus the Colts. I'm not saying that the Colts are going to lose. This is a game that the Colts like to lose. They like to choke and play down to their competition. So the Colts can lose. But main reason why I like this spread is they don't have to win. They just have to basically be within 2 scores and you win the bet. As long as they don't lose by more than 10, you're sitting pretty.
And as far as 10.5 goes, I like the Rams against the Giants. I think they're going to definitely beat them by more than 11 points, so that should be an easy play.
Especially with Saquon and possibly Glennon playing. I can easily see that being a 2 score or more.
I mean, the Cowboys just did it to the Giants, so I can see the Rams doing it for sure.
Absolutely. Another one of my favorites is going to be Packers. They're 4.5 point favorites versus the Bears. I can easily see the Packers winning by a touchdown or more.
Yeah, Justin Fields hasn't even thrown for over 200 yards, I don't think.
Yeah, well, he's also hurt. It looks like Andy Dalton might be starting again. Back. So that's what it's looking like. But regardless, I like Packers to win by at least a touchdown this week.
They should easily do that if Andy Dalton's under center. So
absolutely. And that concludes our new segment. If you have access to a book, give it a try. Those would be the bets that I would definitely try and place.